Well, halito akana. Hello, friends. Chimichukma, how you doing? The program is Red Hoop Talk. It is I, Jennifer Robin, and waiting impatiently backstage, we have Miss Mary Youngblood. So, Mary, welcome to the program. And of course, there's always something about something. Miss Mary, we cannot hear you, even though I could a moment ago. So we're going to let her curse the curses. I'll stick her backstage real quick. And so trying to do a better job and promote the association that allows us to do this and every month and allows me to do this every single month. So to buy Mary a few seconds to press buttons and shake phones, and I think a lot of us have fat thumbs where we have our settings right and then all of a sudden it's not. So let's do a membership promo and check in with Miss Mary in mere moments. All right. Well, I appreciate y'all being here with us, and we'll be back.
The association is a 501c3 that does not take any federal funds. We are powered by the generosity of our members and donors. If programming like Red Hoop Talk matters to you, please consider donating or becoming a member today. Every contribution, no matter the size, helps us continue our mission. You can make a one-time gift or set up reoccurring contributions. We even accept stocks and cryptocurrency. An association membership is just $25 annually or $500 for a lifetime membership. Membership is open to anyone who supports our vision and goals. Donate or become a member today by visiting indian-affairs.org, and together we can make a difference for Native country.
Greed. Finger spelling to me. Mary, let's pull the phone back from your head. Are you able to connect now? My jiggly darling. Well, I can finger spell in ASL. She can too. Too bad I'm bad at spelling, and I don't understand what the issue automatically is. So I'm gonna keep rambling here, y'all. Being a live broadcaster and having Miss Mary on the program 1,000 times in my 15-year broadcasting career, neither of us had to worry about a lot of these virtual things, and neither of us had to worry about taking showers and getting pretty before it, because FM radio, she strolls in with the bun, she strolls in with this, she strolls in with that, and we just make magic. So I am surprised, not surprised that somehow we made a 15-year friendship of 1,000 interviews even more complicated. So I vote. Let's open. Miss Mary Youngblood, Grammy Award-winning flautist. Some things I want to cover with her when she gets it back together. Mary has worked in prisons, bringing the flute and bringing medicine to prisoners. She also is a Grammy Award winner before a lot of these categories and the Music Academy changed their stuff and things. So, Miss Mary, are we still using sign language? Yes. Oh, I hear you.
Okay, hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my son I don't have Chrome on my computer, and I don't know what happened. Why you couldn't hear me before.
So we are going to collectively take a deep breath.
Water.
And we're going to exhale. Well, I don't know if you can hear me backstage, but I was just telling everybody that in our 15 years of friendship and going on air, none of us had to worry about looking pretty. And none of us had to worry about all this computer virtual stuff, because we were in an old school, crusty community radio studio.
Okay, I'm going to calm us down.
Okay.
All right. I need to calm me down. I'm sweating. Yeah, this is not the world I remember being a working musician at the beginning. Okay.
Yay. I'm going to let that sink in. Mary Youngblood, welcome to Red Hoop Talk.
Kweyana, thank you in my language. I appreciate it. I love you dearly, my sister.
No, I feel that my whole career in broadcasting has had you in it. You were there before I came in, and I'm dragging you everywhere I go with me. You're my token. You're my token flautist. Don't tell Keith Sokola.
It's my pleasure.
So we have a whole new audience of folk for you. I mean, before we're stuck in our little community radio bubble with your adoring fans, but now with this video stuff, with this technology, we get a whole new audience. So where do we start on Mary 101?
Oh, learning the technology. Now I have a whiz kid that I use, and he's in his, I think he just turned 40, and I met him lecturing at the local junior college. And so with him as my actually co-producer and business partner, and being that he's the young whiz kid, he's been able to get me up to speed. I can do Zoom, no problem. This is another whole planet here, but teaching and doing everything online. We're working on a new album that'll be streamed. So the technology and the changes that have happened in the industry since I was young, and I've got to plug in my phone. My phone is dying. If you'll be patient with me.
I will be patient.
Let me get everything set up so I can get my phone. You talk.
So Mary, if this was radio, if we were in the radio broadcast booth, I would just play like an 8-minute Stevie Salas guitar solo song, or do an 8-minute flute song, or do something to buy us time. But with things being video, there's no way, there's no place to hide our shame. Like there's nothing I could do to distract you guys while we get our act together. Maybe I should just start storing within StreamYard like my cat videos or something, so I'll stick a ribbon shirt on my fat dog and call it call it a time saver. Oh, and I'm cracking up too. Oh Lord, this Mary, we've been doing this for 1,000 years together, and it looks like it's our first time. So I think I'm going to heed the advice of our comments and give Mary a second to get it together. So I want to, every guest gets a red hoop. So this is how.
Support Native voices and look great doing it. Get your hands on the limited edition Red Hoop Talk podcast shirt designed by a Native artist. It also features our hashtag #EverythingBack campaign on the back, demanding the return of culture, lands, and sovereignty. Every purchase helps keep Native stories alive. Visit indian-affairs.org to get yours today. Wear it, share it, support it.
Okay, so I can't right now. Mary, are you
You couldn't hear
Harry?
me.
I know, because I put you backstage, which Zoom doesn't have.
Oh,
So
can you
what's
hear me
funny
now?
is that you said you're whiz kid. Yeah, you're fine. You said you're whiz
Okay.
kid in his 40s, and I'm so middle aged. I'm cracking up right now. Like, when is 40 become useful? So after all this, Mary Youngblood, this better be one hell of an interview.
Okay, I'm going. See you later. No, I
I
had
love
to
it so
change
much.
positions, and then there was a glare, so you couldn't see me in the glare. So I had to change my beautiful position of seeing my Navajo rug on the wall and my plants. So now you just get the back door.
I'm going to owe you a lot of radio time this year, just so we can relax with the less pressure.
Eh,
But Mary, tell us about, like, let's do a quick all the way flashback. Like, where are you from? What's your deal?
Well, I was born in Seattle, Washington. Um, I was given up for adoption at birth, and I was adopted by a non-Indian family in Seattle, in Kirkland, Washington, when I was 7 months old. I am Chugach Alutik. On my mother's side, she is full-blooded and um, from Port Graham, Alaska. And then I have not met my father. He has passed away. My birth father is um, Ellis Earl Youngblood from Lakeland, Florida. And he is Cherokee and Seminole and white. So that's my background. I found my birth mother in 1986, and I had 17 years with her before she passed. So I got to learn a lot about my culture. I didn't know a lot. The journey of finding her was really long and arduous, and 2 years of a letter writing campaign in a state that does not have very good identifying information for adoptees. So it was a long process. And finally, I was able to contact someone through Chugach organization. And we are Chugach Alutik, which means the mountain people. Chugach is mountain. And got a letter in the mail with all my identifying information, my birth mother's name, her address, my sisters, their names, their addresses, everything, the family tree. And I, found out I was part Russian, on my mother's side, which is common in Alaska, and got my guts up to call, and not knowing if the number was even still good or anything. I'm 26 years old. I have 2 young children. I call the number, and her husband answers the phone, and eventually gives the phone over to her. And it was so awkward, and I'm shaking inside. And she immediately tries to tell me why she gave me up for adoption. And I had to eventually almost interrupt her and say, that's not why I'm calling. That doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that I found you, and I want to know more about where I came from. So long story short, my adopted parents actually sent me up to Seattle with my then 5-year-old son, Benjamin, to meet my birth family. And we took the train because somebody was scared to fly. So we took the train up to Seattle. I met my birth family. I have a wonderful relationship with my sister Hannah, who's 4 years older than me. Her father is Tlingit and Chinese.
Wow.
And we're the closest of all the family. I'm one of 12. I found out I was one of 12. My birth mother ran away from Mount Edgecombe Government School in Alaska and in Sitka, and kept running away, kept getting caught and found. And finally, she and her friend Rosemary ran away to Seattle, where they started their young, chaotic lives. they met my birth father at a Navy bar, and was also considered an Indian bar in
Okay.
Seattle. If any of you out there know what an Indian bar is, my non-Indian friends don't know what that is. Most of us know what that is. It's where the native people hang out and the Navy guys hang out. Well, eventually, Youngblood left Seattle. He was in the Navy. My mother was pregnant, and he decided to go home, and her best friend, Rosemary, went with him. So that was how I found him, because my mother had said that Rosemary decided that she loved Youngblood.
That's
It was
nice.
a soap opera. It was the native soap opera. And so that's how I found her. I looked up Rosemary, our Rosemary Youngblood, and found my family. Unfortunately, no one's really wanted to have a relationship with me. I got a chance to talk to my brother David, and that side is not as connected to their heritage. Very much Bible Belt kind of. He was into Elvis and Jesus, and um, wasn't real interested in things like I'd been interested in, being part of the Indian community forever in this town. So anyway, that's the beginning of how I started out. Was raised with two educators who were teachers, one of English. Um, we moved to Arizona when I was in fourth grade, and I wanted to be in the band. And there were no instruments left but the classical flute. And I'm 9 years old. My mom's like, "Are you sure you want to play this? It's as tall as you, and you got to play it out to the side, and it's got all kinds of keys." And I don't know. But they hired a master's student to get me caught up because we moved mid-year. And that was the only instrument that was left. And I went, "I want it. I got to be in the band." So that began the journey with a flute. Now, years and years and years later, after being in the marching band, the concert band, rock and roll band after high school, I started working in a native gallery down in Old Sac. I was a young mother. And one of the gentlemen merchants across the street said, "Hey, I got some Native American flutes in from this guy. Shouldn't you be playing that? Don't you play classical music? You're a classically trained flute player, right?" And I went, "Yeah." He goes, "How come you're not playing this?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I'd never been exposed to it, you know." He goes, "Here, you take this. You go practice. You have fun." And, I couldn't afford it. So he said, "I'll let you put it on layaway. I know where you are. You work across the street." So he let me take it, and I would sit in the gallery, and I would just like, beautiful stick with 6 holes in it. What do I do with it? And I would just sit in the store and just make noises with it, try to figure out the scale. I had no idea what I was doing, but I made some pretty sounds out of it. I was a flute player after all, and a native woman, so I'm going to be able to play this. But it didn't really go that way. But so I started playing the native flute in the gallery, and people would kind of walk by and listen to the music and come in and say, "Wow, that sounds really great." And I'm thinking, no, it's the acoustics, because we have 20-foot ceilings here in Old Sacramento. And like, no, that really does sound good. And I didn't have anything to compare it to because I never listened to native music or native flute music. So I am playing along. It's about 28 days after I got my first Native American style flute. And some kids came in from Sac City College, and they said, "We heard that there was a Native woman in here who played the flute." And I'm like, "Well, if you call it that." I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah. And they said, "We are starting the very first Indigenous Peoples Day here in Sacramento. And we want you to come play on the quad." And I went, "What?" And I said, "I don't know. I just started playing this. I don't even know what I'm doing." And they said, "It really sounds good, Mary." And I said, "Oh, well," they said, "I tell you what, we're going to pay you $250 to play on the quad for 20 minutes. I went, "Okay."
Done.
I'll figure it out. So that was my first paid gig, less than 30 days after obtaining my first Native American style flute. And I
Oh,
just,
well, hold on, Mary. I'm gonna pause you real quick because you said some things that spark my curiosity. So in your family, within your adoption, were you raised knowing that, hey, you're Native American, or we don't know what, like, were you aware of your indigeneity growing up?
absolutely. Now, my parents, being good educators, tried to, that we knew that I was what we thought was Aleut at the time, the Aleutian chain. Well, once I ended up going home and meeting my family and elders, no, you are Aleutic. There was a difference between the Aleut people that are on the tail, the chain of Alaska, and the mainlanders. We were Aleutic. So I knew I was Aleut, at least. I knew that my mother was Aleutian, if you will, Alaska Native. We didn't know much else about that. We didn't know. We knew that, I guess, she was, or my father was college educated or something. They just didn't give much identifying information. But I did grow up knowing, and of course I was brown. My parents are white. My
Yeah.
little sisters are white. I'm brown. You couldn't miss that. So they did try to educate me by showing me books. We would read books on Alaska Natives and Native Americans and all that kind of stuff. But and I know, and even they knew towards the end of their journey that you can't learn hardly anything from books. You can't rely on books to teach you anything. But bless their hearts, they tried. So I did know I was Alaska Native. And so until I found my birth mother, I didn't know much else. And but I learned over the years. Got to go up to Nutchik Island, which is our traditional land in Prince William Sound. Got to work with our native youth, teach them the flute. The kids pulled up the halibut lines every day. A 14-year-old girl caught a seal one day. They got to show the kids how to prepare it and cook it. We got to help cook it. You wrap it in foil, stick it in the oven, and got to meet a lot of relatives. And I got my native name, which is Kachkadak Adokdak. And I'm sure I'm pronouncing it totally wrong, but it's bird of prey singer. And they don't have a word in Aleutic for hawk, or eagle, which were special animals to me, or flute player, So we just kind of had to come close. And the elders said, okay, you can be bird of prey singer. And that's in two different words, birds of prey, a kachkadak singer, a dochdak. So that was thrilling. And then it's like I came home. I mean, literally came home to my heart, spirit, soul to come back. And I think a lot of adoptees, and especially Native and Indigenous kids, some of us find our way home. And it wasn't just the music that helped with that. It was finding my birth mother, having an experience of having, now going up to Alaska several times and meeting relatives and learning some of the traditions of our people. It's been like a miracle. Who knew that would happen? I didn't even know what a Native American flute was, and I'm 30. So I was in my 30s before I even picked up one of these.
I
Native
know,
flute.
and then 30 days later, you're a quote unquote professional musician, museum. We're gonna get to the museum, but were your parents like threatened in any way by this deep connection to your tribal DNA?
I think my adopted mom was a little bit. I think
No.
that was hard for her. She had wanted to step into that role and be my mother. And then, maybe didn't think that she would want to find her mother someday. I don't think it was done as much in the 50s. There weren't open adoptions or anything like that where parents could make arrangements with birth parents about keeping in touch with children, especially Indigenous children at that time. Things have changed. Things have changed a lot. but they weren't at that time in 1958 on up through the 60s. Um, now, um, adoptive parents of young indigenous kids
ICWA.
are almost discouraged from adopting. Let's see if we can't get them placed into a native home.
Yeah.
And I agree with that because it was really hard for me. I felt so lost. I felt out of place. It was confusing and difficult and painful.
Well, you
So,
already have those feelings just by being adopted. Just,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You already have those do I belong feelings, but then you add the cultural stuff and that disconnect, which is its own separate pain. So
yeah,
I think it takes a lot. It takes a lot of a bird of prey
yeah,
behavior to get you over that, to get you to make that phone call, to get you to, you know, there's a lot of people, and I've known a few that had the phone number for like 13 years before they called. 15, you know, that they can't, because what if? And then when you were talking about your birth mom jumping into why she let you go, because that to me, I hear that she's wanted to tell you that your whole life, that she really, you know, that she thought about you and cared about you so much that she needed to let you know why.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's, I don't know, that's just weird and sweet. So you had kind of a double dose of a cultural disconnect and that familial disconnect with adoption. So I just,
We had so much fun
you
when
should be way more day drunk and crazy with just the short amount of stuff you told me. You should have way more issues than you do.
it's lurking beneath.
I was going to say, or
But
you
yeah, when
hide
I
it
got to
well.
Seattle, we were like compared because I had no one that looked like me. So we're comparing our feet, you know, our toes. We have the same feet. We have a big Fred Flintstone toe. I mean, we just laugh. And that's one thing I've noticed about our people too, and being involved in the community and getting reconnected with family and home is that what is our saving grace as Native people is our ability to laugh. It doesn't matter what family, what tribe you're from, we have that ability to laugh. And it's nothing like laughing with your family members and your sisters and your mom. And it's just, my mother had a beautiful sense of humor. And I always appreciated that about her. She could laugh at anything, and she was fun. Where I kind of grew up with, you know, overly educated, really uptight people, and she wasn't like that. And so, yeah, it was pretty special that I found her.
Well, and it's not just laughing at things, it's laughing at each other. So you're no stranger to my paw.
No,
My dad, you've been in the booth with many a times. Nobody can press my buttons like him, but I also know where all his are. So there's something about our culture of just poking each other, poking the bear, not like, you know, that we're not laughing at you with you. It's true. We laugh at each other and with each other and at ourselves. And there's just, uh,
so
there's a
good sense of
bond.
humor has been really important for this girl's journey. That's for sure.
Well, if we're not laughing, we're crying. I don't
Yeah. Then what else is there? Yeah.
know. Oh, Miss Mary. So I don't know. I didn't mean to get too personal, but you know, we talk to people that were 60s scooped. We talk about the formation of ICWA and trying to place children with cultural connections, right? And that shift, I mean, it's still, people still kick and scream and don't understand that there's something about who we are that's not just connecting or feeling like we have a sense of family or community, but there's this deeper something that is in our blood, that we need each other. We need the group. We need to feel brown in a sea of brown faces. We need to feel benign, not token. Like we need to hear that drum. We need to hear, like, it's just not knowing your history or what. It's so much more than that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's like, and I know we were going to end up talking about this anyway, but performing at the Smithsonian, the Museum of the American Indian, on that the very first day, and seeing tens of thousands of brown faces, being able to look out at everyone in their regalia. And, most, having been involved in the community, most I could recognize. And I, of course, always recognize with the white, button blanketed women. And I'm like, oh, those are sisters from Alaska, at least from Canada. And to be around each other. I mean, I hadn't had a lot of experiences like that. And it was so emotional. It was just so emotional to be with so many of our people. I mean, I've had that feeling before, like going to the Gathering of Nations, going to the big Denver powwow, and what is that one in New Mexico? But, being around a lot of Native people from all different tribes, it's just so cool. It's like, oh, there's one of us. There's one of me. There, and feeling that connection. Or being able to look at someone passing on the street. Sometimes I'll see a Native person and we just do our hello thing with our lips, to acknowledge that I see you. I see that you are a brother or a sister. And it's a really special connection. Absolutely. I'm very proud.
I love it. No, it is funny in this modern age. You see somebody wearing a little flair of nativeness, and you do have to give the, like just walk by and high five.
Yeah.
Acknowledging each other, but it acknowledges ourselves and acknowledges that we're still here.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to jump all over the place because you're just way too interesting. Now, you mentioned the Smithsonian of the American Indian. When was that opening?
2002. I could go get the.
So that's not very long.
They just had the 20th anniversary. So I can't pull the specific date. There's something on the wall somewhere around here, but
I guess it blows me away that it's so recent that there's a National Museum of the American Indian. Like, we've kind of been here since before they got here and helped them win battles to stay here. And then they're like, oh, it's the year 2000. Maybe we should acknowledge these people. But you opened for them in 20-something years ago, but you also have a flute in the museum. So I just think that's so cool because you're like, how do I say this? Because I love you and I don't want you to hit me. Like, I don't want to, you're a living relic. I don't know what to, like, how do I explain that?
Oh, that's sweet. Well, before the museum opened, I have a bunch of flutes made by a specific flute maker, Russ Venable, who's Cherokee. And we thought, well, wouldn't that be great to donate a flute? I don't know if there are any flutes in the Smithsonian yet. I know there are in other museums all around the country, but so we started the paperwork for it. It took about almost a year. Wow. For the paperwork. We had to, submit our tribal identity. Russ, being Cherokee, had a harder time getting, getting hooked up and signed up to be, registered and show his proof of who his parents were and all that to get his, what do they call it for the Cherokee tribe? DOS roll. So, but he got all his things in a row. I had my BIA card and all that stuff. So we sent it in and it took a while to get accepted. And then the first time I saw it in the museum was the opening night.
Wow.
And because we had to wait, do it a year before, I think it was. And it's in a drawer and it gets routinely every 2 years, they rotate things there. If you've ever been there, they have big, huge drawers and you will pull out a big drawer and there's hundreds of points, maybe from the Southwest or maybe the mound people and things that are found. But there it is. You pull out a drawer and there's Russ Venable's flute with my signature on it that we donated. So that was really fun. And that'll be there forever,
That's so cool. until I go and rematriation it, till I repatriation that flute. I'm just kidding. Now, okay, so we have this modern flute that you carry around. Did like everybody kind of had a flute and everybody kind of had a drum, but then I think of like your roots of Alaska, there weren't a whole bunch of trees to make. You know what I mean? Like I don't think of a lot of
We
forests.
had whistles. We had like eagle
Okay.
bone whistles. We didn't have flutes per se. No, not allowed. Not my people. Not on the other side, the Cherokee and Seminole, they did, but not the Alaska Natives. They had whistles that they would use, kind of like California Indians do,
Yeah.
to be like rhythmic with the dancing or drumming.
Okay. And then all just so many different what I'm pushing 600 tribes,
Yeah.
600 different perspectives, 600. So how do we settle upon the Native American flute that we know today?
Oh, it's
Like,
really
can
more.
you, because you're a native, and if you played the classical flute, but you're a native, like, does that become a native flute?
No.
Okay.
No. But yeah, it's morphed. The flute has morphed and changed. Now the scale it's Asiatic. It's very old. It's not from our culture. It's a minor pentatonic scale. Now, originally, the flute would have been made according to the size of a person's arm, and then there was a specific way they were made, so they would not sound the way they do today. Today, they're pretty standard minor pentatonic scale, but traditionally they would have probably not made sense to our musical ears. We're used to European scales and other more popular scales. It wouldn't have been any known scale because it was all built where the holes are placed.
Mm-hmm.
Their end would be according to someone's hand, and then the first hole would be here, and then you'd have another hand's breadth, and maybe different tribes were different where you'd put a finger in between each hole. Maybe a certain tribe would be the thumb in between each hole. Some had 5 holes, some had 6. Most were made traditionally of cedar or redwood, though, so that the lighter woods were traditional. And now for some of the woodland tribes, I'm not sure if you walked into a Cherokee village hundreds of years ago what the wood may have been then. I mean, I haven't done that kind of extensive research on all the different tribes that played
Yeah.
a flute, but women did not play this.
You
For
rebel.
the Plains Indians and the Southwest Natives, the flute was used for courting, specifically the Plains Indians, Cheyenne, Lakota, Dakota, Ute. They would have been made by men, played by men, and a woman wouldn't touch it because it was used for courting. A young man would learn how to play a flute, play a special song for his lady love, go out to the river and call her with his flute. Now, if you were to walk into a Cherokee village 500, 600 years ago, you may be greeted by men, women, and children playing a flute. So at the very beginning of my career, I got a lot of flack for being a woman, and I had to almost re-educate some of our own people, saying, that might be the way it is for you. You're Lakota. I'm not Lakota, and I am part Cherokee, and that's, there's so many traditions and tribes that
Yes.
sometimes we forget that, our way isn't the highway. There's, a lot of other tribes with ways of doing things. So that has changed. The instrument itself, one of my flute makers, his name was Lou Paxton Price. He has since passed away. He developed the computer program that would enable anyone who makes flutes to be able to um, make sure that they're in pitch and that the holes are a certain amount apart and that all the innards of this instrument be certain dynamics. And there was a lot of math involved and a lot of physics involved, but it has evolved into an instrument that professional musicians play. And so it has changed, but I tell people that traditions and change with our people. I mean, if traditions didn't morph and change a little bit here and there over the years, where would we be? I think that there's something positive to be said with, traditions kind of slowly changing. And I'm reminded of that when I watched my favorite film of all time, Fiddler on the Roof. Tradition. And I think about how for those people back then that the tradition was so important too, but yet they realized if they got stuck too much in it, that wasn't always a positive thing either. The traditions do change. But so the Native American flute has really come a long way. It has really come a long way. I get calls and emails from people all the time that say, I am not Native American. Can I still play this instrument? And I'll say, the spirit of the flute calls to everybody. It's for everybody. So it might not be something that you played traditionally and for your people, whatever they are, whomever they are. But I think it's that special of an instrument that, yeah, it needs to be shared and played and enjoyed because it's a really beautiful stick with 6 holes in it.
Okay, but let's be real. The second we start telling non-natives they can do something, many of them go and ruin it for the rest of the class. So if let's say I'm a non-native musician and I pick up a Native American flute, how do I?
You mean like common?
Yeah. Okay. So how do I respectfully present my? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
like you are a Native American, flute player, right? To me. So like lay out the best way to describe yourself.
what I tell people who are non-native that play this, and if they just start playing it, I mean, I started the flute festivals and flute circles all over the world. We started the second one in Northern California. There are people that play this all over the world that are non-native, but most are so respectful. I have not noticed anyone who just a few people maybe who've kind of let people think they were native. But most people say, I am not Native American, but I am playing this beautiful flute. And a lot of the flutes that are out there right now are not big. I can count on one hand native flute makers. So most of the people making this are non-native. It's what they do, their intention with and how they honor and respect this instrument and the history behind it. Most everyone I know that plays this that is non-native has a deep respect. But there are only a handful of us native people that still play and that still make this. So we're keeping it alive in a good way. That is for me, I'm a musician. I believe that music is for everybody. I taught in the prison systems for 14 years because everybody deserves music. Everybody deserves the arts. Everybody deserves the right to express themselves. And if it happens to come from something that's an ethnic instrument, you know how many ethnic flutes I have? I've got Chinese instruments. I've got shows. I've got Japanese, shakuhachis. I've got Irish flutes. So I honor all of those traditions and peoples who created these instruments. For one thing, I'm kind of a historian. I love flutes of any kind, any culture, any country. I like to play all kinds of flutes. But
But
most
you
people,
don't present yourself. You saying I love flutes, I love music, I love flutes, but you don't come across and say I'm a Japanese flute player.
no, and I get to be what I am. And I will introduce myself, my tribal affiliate, and my name, and I discuss the history usually of the flute in concert, and so people get a little bit of a background. Um, I get people in our flute circle that stand up and say, well, I'm not Native American, but I love this instrument and they play. I wouldn't be selective and say, I'm not going to teach you because you're not Native. I'm not going to teach you because you're not Native or, whatever. So it's important to me that everyone enjoy this instrument. And yes, I happen to be Native and Indigenous and I play this traditional instrument.
So the reason I bring it up and I'm digging around in my cluttered little desk around here. So I don't, where KVMR is, it's kind of in this very new agey area of California. And the new agey, to me, they just kind of take what they want from us. So every year, as you know, I do the Indigenous Peoples Day broadcast. Well, this kid sent me CDs, and on the CDs, he has long hair, he's wearing a medallion, he's playing guitar, he's holding a flute, all these things. So I'm like, oh, cool, he's local, right? Let's get him in, let's do the deal. So I called him to talk to him, and he's not native in any way. He just likes the native flute and the quote unquote vibe. And on his fourth album, like 4 albums of this persona. So I guess that's where I get a little just crazy.
That happens. That I can't tell you how many people I've run across doing, whether it's a native event or usually a flute festival where you got your wannabes in there. I mean, the Department of Fish and Game came to a gig I was doing in Florida and got this guy who was out dancing. He was a fancy dancer. Took him off the arena to go and take his feathers. And he was, then the rest of us are kind of like, yeah, he's not native. Or someone said, yeah, he is, but he's not documented, so he can't be wearing all those eagle feathers. And I mean, there are performers out there that dye their hair black and appear to try to be native when they're not. And most of us, we know, why? Because we know who we are. And it's like, who is, if someone comes into our community that we don't know that well, and there's been some in the Sacramento area. It's like, do you know who that guy is? No. He says he's this or that. Do you know anyone from the Cheyenne tribe that would know and validate that this guy's real? And, we just kind of by asking, we knew he was a fake. We knew he wasn't a real, plus he called himself a shaman.
This kid even named an album that Indigenous.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. And the New Age movement romanticized and glamorized our culture without a doubt. And there are still those that look to do that. And just what else can you do but call them out? I mean, and that's happened over history. Remember, they found out, the guy that has the tear running down his face.
Yeah, he was Italian.
I know. So that happens. That's because we have such a culture that is so rich and so beautiful that people want to emulate it and can kind of claim it. And we know who we are. I mean, and I, as a member of the board of directors for the SUPI, which was the Indian clinic in town for a long time, you just get to know people in your community. And even though I was adopted and didn't know a lot of my relatives, you kind of figure out who's really native and who's not. You just do. And they're going to be found out. And there are other people that are Filipino out there that kind of look native and they maybe perform with a native person. And they don't tell people they're not native.
No, so they go with the look. They like
assumed they are.
Yeah, they like that assumption. They're making money off that assumption.
But yet,
so they're not going to volunteer.
I know they're not.
Yes, but they're gonna keep perpetuating that assumption with more of the vibe.
That is unfortunate, and that's how the New Age movement and still people like to glamorize and romanticize our culture. And I don't know that there's anything we can do but call them out. We're not that aggressive people. We're kind of more passive aggressive. So it's like, Jan, he's not really Dakota.
Okay. But
so we learn and we know who's who and who's real and who's not just by having a conversation. And usually it's like, oh, who's your grandma?
So I'm getting triggered. I'm getting triggered right now because in our area, in our little new age top 4% of whitest places in California, Nevada City, Grass Valley, Nevada County, even when I feel like I have spoken out, or even you have spoken out against people that seem to like the assumption that they're native and take opportunities away from natives and stick their face in native stuff, I feel like it still fell upon deaf ears because they like what that pretendian is selling. They like Do you see what I'm saying? That somebody would rather work with a flutist who pretends to be native because they're cheaper or more available than actually call Mary Youngblood a Native American woman flutist. And I know you know who I'm talking about. And that's what's making me crazy. So even though I feel like in times I have spoken up, they like the agenda better of that pretendian.
Well, then
Look, I'm
that's not the
fidgeting
kind of
with stuff. I'm
buyer.
just getting all mad. Like,
That's not the kind of buyer you'd want to work with, right?
okay. But does that shoot us
And
in
it's
our own
important
foot?
who you say yes to for gigs and stuff. I've done a lot
Okay.
of kind of fakey native powwowy kind of things, and that's most prevalent when I hear about our brothers and sisters that go over to dance in Europe or Germany, and they come back and they're like, "Yoy," So there's a lot of that pretending going on over there, where they have regalia making classes, where they study like how the Lakota women make their regalia, or how the Seminole women make their patchwork skirts or whatever. So they learn all this stuff, and then they have big powwows where they dance and they have winners, and yeah. So I mean, I guess you could say, if it comes down to the bottom line, is flattery, or copying other people is the best flattery. It's like, no, well, that doesn't necessarily fly um, ethnically and culturally,
Bingo.
but that just happens. And I don't know, we just hang on to who we are. We know who we are, and we don't have to, people in the industry and the community, we don't have to cater to that. We don't have to buy or hire those people. And if someone's going to take advantage, it's really sad, because why can't you love your own culture? That's what we do.
Yep.
I mean, why can't you love where you came from? Your culture is rich and beautiful. Let's say you're Irish. And it's like, wow, the Irish have a beautiful, rich culture. Hold on to it. Do Irish stuff. Learn how to play the penny whistle.
Yeah, but learn about your tribal history from the Irish perspective. We all go back to the earth at some point. All of our cultures kind of come from that tribal communing with Mother Earth and depending on the earth. Like, everybody has that memory somewhere. We're just closer to it because we were the last ones mowed over.
That's true. I think about, like, my birth mother did not have refined sugar till she was 16 years old. She had never been outside of the village to have junk food and candy and sugar. And then when she got to Seattle, all her teeth fell out.
No, sugar is good.
But, I mean, it's just, yeah. I don't know if there's, what we can do about that. If you're looking for an answer of how do you handle that. There are sometimes when I'll really stand up, especially when someone says, "Oh, hi, Mary Youngblood, I love your music. I'm studying to be a shaman."
Oh, God.
And I look at them like this for about nice, long, pregnant pause. And I don't smile. I don't go, "Oh, cool." I just look at them like, inside I'm thinking, what?
I got acid
And they'll say,
reflux.
"Yeah, I'm studying with this shaman." And I'll be kind of not rude, but I'll go in teacher mode, and I'll say, those of us in North America don't refer to our teachers or our medicine people or spiritual people as shaman. Now, I said, now if you go to Peru, yeah, you can call their shaman a shaman, because that's what they call him. But in North America, we don't say that. So when someone says, "I'm studying to be a shaman," that is where I kind of draw the line, because what do you understand that to mean? And then they go to school, or they go to Sedona for a week,
and they pay
I
too much money
sweat
for a
lodge. I mean,
certificate.
I don't.
It's
So
hard.
there's some things that we're all crossed. I don't like that line being crossed, but in terms of someone wanting to play this beautiful instrument with 6 holes in it, as long as they know the history of it and the value of it and the respect, and most do. I'll say that most people I teach really respect this instrument, and they're not claiming to be anything else. And once they do, say the S word, I kind of, I will explain and educate that that's not how we refer to our medicine people. And a medicine person is never going to say, I'm a medicine person. I said, there's a
Bingo.
humbleness that comes with really being a true medicine person. And so if you are studying to be shaman and saying, I'm going to be a shaman, or I've had people say, I'm a shaman, and I just want to turn around and walk away.
No, and I don't know why I put all of that on you. I'm like, hey
Yeah.
Mary, how do we fix like every single idiot out there? I don't because you like to throw around your age a lot. Like, I'm wise, I'm Mary. And then when I ask you how to fix it all, you're like, I don't know.
I'm almost 67.
Uh,
But I mean, yeah, it's when it comes to culture, it is such a personal, private, beautiful thing. And I think that the best way we can feel okay about it is, it's powwow season. There's going to be powwows out there. We run into each other out there, and we know who we are then and there. And
yep.
there are going to be people who the looky-loos, and I mean, even going up to big time at Chasse, we didn't start the ceremonies of the dancing. It was open to the public till like 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's supposed to be, it's over for the public. And you get those people, the blonde hair, blue eyed people who want the hippy dippy ones that want to sit there in the roundhouse and wait for the dancing to start. And no one's going to say, hey, dude, man, you're not one of the community. You got to leave. We're not going to do that. So we wait and we wait and we wait. And that year, the big head dancers didn't even come in till 1 o'clock in the morning.
You had to wait them
So
out.
I think someone finally did go who knew them,
Yeah.
who said, you guys tried to do this last year and this is going to be the same. They won't start the dancing if you're here just to get the vibe and sit back and meditate. No. So, I mean, it was the dancing itself didn't start till I think 10. When
But
it was
that's what the
supposed,
entitlement is. That's what that's what you can't have anything to yourself. We're entitled to it too.
well, if they found out that it didn't. And then in the morning, Frank LaPena's son was like 15 years old, and he faced the East Lodge pole and sang a song and woke us all up. And it was a beautiful evening. Coyote was jumping around in the middle of the night over everybody. The kids are sleeping on the floor. The elders are enjoying the hot coffee and the hand games. And I mean, it was really, really awesome. But that little quirk of everyone kind of going, they won't leave. It's 8 o'clock. They won't leave. And then some of us were like, well, why doesn't someone go tell them to leave? We can't start with them being here. We just can't. And, I don't know, should someone have gone up there at 6 o'clock and said, we're closed now, except for community.
Bye. But no, a lot of our culture is expecting people to do the right thing or come to the own right thing as their conclusion, right? So when they don't, it does confuse a lot of us because most of us get like one stare from an auntie or grandma and we're like, oh, I shouldn't be being this way or being here,
Well,
right? Like we take the hint.
It's a generational thing too. Like you said, when you pointed to yourself, I would say something.
Yeah, bye.
So us boomers are much more passive aggressive, I guess. We would just give them the stink eye. And they knew they were being given the stink eye. They just thought they could kind of sit there and not do anything and get away with it. I think they were sitting on a back bench around the end.
Trying to hide in the shadows of the harbor.
Yeah. But they finally did go. They realized that we just sat around and chatted with each other. And kids are running around chasing. And we're just sitting there. And we're talking amongst ourselves going, why don't they leave? Why don't they go?
Should have talked louder. But no, it's just that cha-cha dance that the more we put out there, the more we risk that stuff. But we can't just not do things because we're worried about those risks, so.
Well, I'm an outsider. I'm not California native. And so it was my first time in the roundhouse because you have to be invited.
Yep.
And I'd been on the board for 10 years before I got an invitation to go to a bear dance or deer dance. and it was an honor. So gosh, it wasn't going to be me telling him anything, because I was lucky to be there. I was invited, and being an outsider invited in to do a me walk or my do, you know, event was like so special in the first place. But and then
Ew.
I had to be educated, because my other native friends who are California Indian were like, yeah, they're not going to come out and dance. You know, those gourd singers aren't going to come out and make the earth move and pound and dance until those people leave.
Well, they were holding you
They were.
hostage.
I
And
now, if I were your age and I was younger and I was California Indian, I would have no problems telling them to leave. I would. I probably would have had to be ballsy like that. But me being Alaska Native of Cherokee and Seminole and lucky to be there with my friends, I was just like, you
but
know,
you also mentioned boomers. So in your lifetime, it was illegal to do native ceremonies, right? Like in my lifetime, it's illegal to sell stuff not made by a Native American, pretending, right? So I don't think that like your politeness is sheepishness, or you know what I'm saying, like
it's a culture. I mean, it's a
but
generational
you
thing, partially.
the
Yeah.
the consequence of me going in there and telling him to fuck off would be a very different consequence if you were my age in that time, right? And you throw in being a woman into that 40 years ago. So it's, I don't know, so much has changed, Mary, and that's why I think I love talking to you so much, is because you're right in the middle of really aware of how things were and really aware of how things are changing and moving. Like in music, you've won a Grammy, but now no other native flute player is going to win a Grammy because there's no longer a native category, right?
That
So you've
really
watched
makes me
things,
mad.
you watched having a record label and having albums to sell to everybody's on the apps for music, right?
Yeah, now we have to have a whiz kid.
Yes. And even the whiz kids, quote unquote, are just getting dumber too, because it exponentially grows. So when I think I got a grip, I barely have a grip. So Grammys, why, why did they take or explain? Was it a Native American category or a flute category, or what? What is it that you won specifically?
Well, so there were people like Joanne Shenandoah, Bill Miller, myself, Keith Cola. I mean, we know a lot of the folks, Joan Baez, that fought for having a Best Native American Music category.
Okay.
We fought for 10 years. I sat on boards with NARAS, which is the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, with Joe and Bill and other folks, Jana, and I mean, young people, older people. And we were trying to tell NARAS we really thought we deserved a category. So they finally gave us one. The year after they gave us one, they gave the Hawaiians one. And 10 years later, they claimed there was not enough interest in Native American music or Hawaiian music, and they ousted 34 categories. Some were gospel, some were R&B, some were rap, some were ethnic. A lot of it was CP music.
Colored
So
people?
that's right. So there was, 34 categories were now shoved into one category, which is now called Americana Roots music. So we were devastated, because after they stopped the category, where 10 of us won, 2 of us twice, or 10 people won, 2 of us twice. So 8 people, 8 groups, drum groups, 8 people, 8 native musicians got to win. And then they took away the category, just saying there wasn't enough interest in Native American music. But we also know at the same time, a lot of, and this is going back to what we were talking about before, a lot of non-natives who played the flute or played native style music thought, I want in on this bandwagon. I want to win a Grammy too. Now, 2 of them were people I knew. One of them was a student of mine. Another was a colleague that always played drum with me for years and years when I performed in Florida. They both entered, and they both got, the way it works, you start with 30 entries, They get judged, they get moves down to 20 and then 15, then 10, and then there's 5 musicians left, and those are the 5 nominees for a Grammy Award. So it takes like 8-9 months to get to that place. Well, these 2 colleagues of mine got to that place being non-native, and I called them both and I said, blank, I need to talk to you about the Grammys, about the category. And I said, this has always been a category for Native First Nations people, for Indigenous Native people. He goes, Mary, you know I love your people. I mean, verbatim, I could have, you know I love your people, but I believe
But
okay, so he says, I believe the Creator gave me this gift, and so I'm going to use it. But he was wealthy. He could put $15,000 on to make an album. So he goes, I respect what you're saying, but I want a Grammy. I really want one, and I'm not going to take my name off the list. And it was done. It was very respectful, but I was upset because his wife is also very wealthy. So he bought himself, and it's a beautiful album, but he could afford to pay money. He could afford studio time. Because he was a wealthy white guy. Anyway, so the second person was someone I knew and loved very well as well. And I asked again, this is like the next year or 2 years later, I said, would you please, as a Native woman and as your teacher, would you please take your name off the list? Because this category should be for Indigenous Native American people, First Nations people, whatever you want to call them. Would you please take your name off the list? He did. And both of these guys knew each other, and they tried to use some kind of genealogy, something or another, to claim that they were Native way back. And, one of them had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I'm like, but he did take his name off the list. So we were dealing with that. I think that Norris got really tired of me, whether it was me, Bill Miller, Joanne Shenandoah, other people supporting Native artists, calling up, writing letters saying, we have a lot of non-Native entries. So the answer to that, Norris said, there's no rule that says you can't be Native American or you can't be Hawaiian. And so there's no way to prove what are we going to do? Make people show their cards, their tribal affiliation, what? So I think Norris got scared dealing with all this, the craziness, because there was a lot of people claiming that they wanted to win a Grammy too that were non-Native. And
but that's what we were talking about before. Okay. This is the same person. Both these albums are not made by a Native person weaseling into a Native space. So it's like it feels like you're double colonized. And JD commented, people can comment while we're talking. He said, ouch. And then you kept talking and he said, ouch again. It's like, so because nobody took the time to respectfully create protocol around the ethnicity, they just yoinked it.
Oh yeah, Norris was just like, we can't, this is not our problem, this is not our business, does not compute, blah, 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 blah. So Norris just kind of backed off the ethnic, cultural parts of it, because I don't know. I mean, the other categories, they weren't necessary. They were still CP categories, but it wasn't specific. Like rap is not specific. Polka is not really specific. But they ousted polka too.
Well, Carly Harvey, my BFF, DC Queen of the Blues, she's on that recording committee or something too. But she says, and I think you said it too on air, that there's like 33 different categories clumped together.
Yeah.
So a Native American, true Native flute player, puts out an album, it's going to fight alongside polka in the same category and alongside
rap and gospel and
that's so the only things that are going to win are the mainstream already paid to play BS?
And that's been a criticism of the music industry and the film industry forever. There's issues of how many African American people are nominated for an Oscar, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we've had these issues, forever in this industry, music, film, art, whatever. But it's a challenge. The good news is that, like, if you do a little research, or if you know who, you hear about someone going to do a concert, I would check to make sure are they really native? That person on that album is not native, then we just don't buy the album. We don't support the going to concerts if they're going to pretend to be something they're not. And it's really usually pretty easy to find out. I mean,
Well, I chose not to out him, right? But I also chose not to use him or play him or promote him in any way.
Right.
But
when someone says, "What do you think about so and so?"
I will say it.
Well, he's not native. He's not. He's got long hair. He wears a
wears
bolo.
Medallion and carries a flute.
This is someone I have known for 30 years, and I'm like, yeah, he's kind of that one. But then on the album, he will say, "I am not Native American." At his concerts, the first thing he says is, "Just so it's clear, I'm not Native American." And I'm thinking, well, then quit dyeing your hair black and cut the damn stuff off, and don't wear a bolo. Just dress like yourself.
I don't even think Indians are wearing bolos no more. Like, they ruined it for us too. We just stopped.
I love my bolos.
You and Papa Bear both.
So. Navajo. Mine is Navajo.
Oh.
But yeah, it can be a touchy subject. I'm just really happy to be where I'm at, and if anyone ever questions me about other artists, I'll tell them the truth of what I know, and I won't patronize them, like you said. You won't play them on air. That happens in our community, but usually everybody knows it. Everybody, even the non-native people, know. Oh, that person's is a wannabe. No,
I'm gonna trust my community too. It's not my job to go vampire hunting.
We know who we are. We know our family and friends, and it's amazing how the follow the smoke signals or whatever. At least when I'm in Sacramento here, you can talk to someone and everybody knows everybody, or their auntie. When I was teaching inside, they say, "Oh, my auntie knows you. My cousin loves you. He knows you from doing powwows or whatever." And so we find each other, we know each other, and we might not even be the same nation, but we know who we are,
Yes, and you
aren't, and who's not a we.
You mentioned that, and I posted our little advert for you being here today on Facebook, and Gary Smalls and the Coyote Bros. Gary Smalls says you're cool, and it's like, duh. Gary. And then one of my jewelry maker powwow gals was like, "That's my auntie." And I'm like, "Is she really? Or are you just," because she said Billy Mills is her uncle. So I'm just cracking up, like, this girl, only famous people I interview are her family.
Well, I get called that a lot. I was everyone's auntie at
You're my auntie. You're my auntie sister.
We have lots of a lot of skins over at Mule Creek, and and they were young. So a lot of my students at Folsom were OGs, but so I was always auntie at Mule Creek Prison, and it was so neat because a lot of them, most of them were California Indian, of course, but being involved in the community here in Sacramento for 40 years, people get to accept that, yeah, she's not one of us, but she's one of us.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
You are. So, okay, let's transition then to prison. And I'm sorry for getting stuck up on the Grammy thing. I know you, and I look at you, and I watch what you do in the greater the community, and I watch the impact you have on lives in our little community. And I know what sacrifices you make and time you make and free stuff you do and all the things that you do. So I guess that's what makes me so bananas crazy that you're not allowed to compete on the big stage, right? Like you're doing more for humanity than most of the musicians that have Grammys, right? But so I think that's where it just shorts me out that but I guess, you know, in the music industry, being a good person and being a musician, they have nothing to do with each other.
There's so many good musicians, and I mean, that are really good people. I'm talking about my friend Joan Baez. Just because it's just there's such good, nice, true, down to earth people in the industry, that there are a lot of the ones that you're referring to, of course. But thank you for that. And it didn't give me a big head. Maybe I'd have a big head if I were doing big arenas. But yeah, it did kind of hurt all of us that all of us just quit working.
Yeah.
We quit working, and that was really hard. Then the recession hit in 2008, and then I started teaching at Folsom Prison, and it was Sherry Snook from KVMR who
Sup, girl?
I told I was having a boohoo moment. I'm like, yeah, none of us are working anymore, and I've gotten so depressed, and I hate this. And she goes, well, why don't you come with me? I've been working with Arts and Corrections, and come in and bring a flute, and maybe you could eventually someday teach there. I don't know, but just come in with me sometime and get your mind off stuff. You're wallowing. She was very, very, very honest person, and didn't hold back from anything. So she was like, no, we can't have this. We can't have you acting like this. You're going to come with me. So we met over there, and I started going in. I was able to eventually teach class. I got donations from Pat Heron and some of my other flute makers, and got started teaching, and that turned everything around. I got nothing better for depression than teaching music and playing music for people and other. Oh my God, it turned everything around immediately.
So was the prison stuff, when you say you're teaching, were you just teaching to natives, or was it just all prisoners?
I drew mainly brown and black people who had native blood. So for instance, most of my black students were interested in the class because they were from the South. So most of my black students from the South had native blood. And I found that to be true over and over and over and over again. So I had a lot of mixed blood people. I had white people. I had some native people. But initially, it kind of caught the interest of some Southern black guys that had native blood somewhere, that they remember pictures of their grandmother with long hair. So then it became a thing where people knew I was native, and then more and more native people would join. And, we're very shy people, so not very demonstrative. And so it took a while, but I was there 14 years. So slowly, more and more, native guys from what we call the AMI population. And then when I went over to Mule Creek, there were so many native people in that program. It's a lower level prison than Folsom. They have a really good dog program that drew a lot of the guys because they could work with an animal, and you wouldn't have to have a cellmate, a cellie, if you had a dog. So they would bring their dogs to class. And so then that's when I became an auntie, when all these younger inmates were like, my mom knows you, or she was on the board at Soupy too, or, my mom's been, she knows you, and from the women's talking circle, or whatever. And so then it became really popular at Mule Creek. So I had mainly native guys.
So, because when I think about the arts program in prisons, it's like, what are is it like is the flute a something to pass the time so they don't get in trouble? Or like is there that cultural component that goes with it?
Yes.
Is that a dumb question? You see what I'm saying?
Oh, the cultural.
Okay.
The cultural part. And because after a while, after coming to my class, you could take your flute back to your house, back to their cell, which they called their house. So then they walk around and play on the yard, and it was something to be proud of, especially the ones that were the AMI, the native guys. They were just like, oh my God, this is so cool. But it was also my intention was to teach them how to express themselves. A lot of my students had gotten into trouble because of gang related activities. Um, so they were looking for community. They were looking for, home. And so they never learned how to express themselves, whether it was anger, joy. I mean, so I'd have classes on, okay, we're going to play the flute now. And I want you to think of something that made you so happy. I want to hear and just picture it and play me happy. And then it'd be like, okay, so now play me something, just remember something that made you awfully sad or maybe made you angry. So they'd go, it's like whatever it was, we're going to make sounds and have feeling with music. And they all thought that was kind of fun, but it was teaching them a skill too, because I taught them how to play. I taught them how to improvise. And I'd always say, okay, guys, I had street creds for this. It's like, I'm going to be teaching you how to make shit up on this instrument, on this beautiful stick with 6 holes in it. We're just going to make shit up. And so they came to me and the class fearless. They weren't afraid to perform. They didn't know there was anything to be afraid of or nervous about playing. And so, because we're just going to make stuff up, there was no, we're going to be learning how to read music. These are the 5, every good boy does fine off always. I mean, nothing like that. It was all about playing from the heart, playing from your feelings and emotions, enjoying the instrument, enjoying playing with others. I mean, I'd have 20 guys sitting in a circle for 2 hours. And so we'd do a song like where I started, and then someone else plays a musical sentence and then passes on to the next person, and made it fun. So they could participate and get joy out of the class. They're making music. One of my students, after 5-6 years, he got transferred to San Luis Obispo prison, and I heard from a CO over there that I knew up at Folsom that he was walking around with his flute going, now I'm a musician.
That's awesome.
Now I'm a musician. And I'm like, that's it. Drop the mic. I'm done. Did my job, and he's teaching other people.
Oh, that's
and
great.
So he became my TA over at Folsom. He goes, what's a TA? I said, you are my teacher's assistant because you've gotten so good. You can help me with the new guys that come in that don't know how to hold their hands. They're holding it wrong. It's left hand on the top, right hand on the bottom. And he'd say, no, you turn your hands around and keep that ring finger down on the 3rd hole as you start. And it was just amazing to see how good it made my students feel to be able to help the new guys coming in that just when they tried to play the flute, it squawked at them. Okay, that's because you're peeking. You're holding your hands where it's part of your fingers uncovered, and so you're not covering the hole all the way. And they'd be so patient trying to teach these other inmates how to play the flute. And it just made me so happy to go to work.
But we don't want to spend time thinking about jail.
No,
we don't want to
to
spend our day like caring about people who quote unquote deserve to be there or quote unquote are there for a reason, right?
Oh, they absolutely are. I just believe they also deserve to have art and music and a way to express themselves. That's why I was there.
So if it has such a profound impact on adult inmates, why aren't we shoving Mary Youngblood in every single elementary school across America to maybe get people able to process emotions and express themselves at a young age instead of waiting until they're in jail for 5 to 15 years or whatever?
Bingo. And coming from the daughter of educators, this has been an age-long problem in the education system. And when my kids were coming up, I was their docent. I was the art docent and the music docent for my mom's classroom. I did all the bulletin boards. I came in with my guitar and I would work with them on songs and give them rattles and stuff. So there was no money. All the teachers had to provide all that. And luckily, my adopted mom had a kid who was talented artistically and musically. So I got to be her helper. But when my children were coming up, there was none at all. There was no, for a while there, I think they had someone come in and would teach them some songs, Frere Jacques, Frere, and it was just like they sang songs for a half hour. Then she had to go to another school and sing songs for a half hour, and then another school. And that's all they had every Friday was some lady who came in and sang songs for a half hour. So it went away in the 80s because my children grew up in the 80s and 90s. And so I did what I could as a creative parent to help, but it wasn't enough. And so we haven't been doing enough for a long time. I did a symposium for educators on arts and education. And that was the common complaint. There wasn't enough funding to bring in real music teachers or people who knew more than just to sing a song. And I said, the arts make a well-rounded human being. That's why I was teaching at the prison. The arts and music and being creative helps make you a well-rounded human for this, for your community. So it's really important to have the arts. And why other people weren't on board with that, I'll never understand that.
But what's cheaper? Having a Mary Youngblood at every school, by you, I mean a music teacher at every school, or prison guards. Right?
Yeah.
What?
Well, that's been the age-old dilemma too.
It seems like it'd be cheaper just to clone you and stick you everywhere than it would be to have the prison guards and the prisoners and the recidivism and the courts and all that.
Well, we all know that not enough monies and time and energy has been invested into early education anyway. We all know that. It's been a problem in this, our community for generations. So we don't think ahead. We don't plan ahead. We don't, put money into those programs for our youth so they follow a good path of learning how to be creative and express themselves in a positive way, blah, blah, blah. So it's been a mess from ever since I can remember going to school.
I remember we had the recorder person come out and play the recorder, and then we learned 2 songs, and then that was it. And then by high school, there was band and choir. There really wasn't anything else, and choir was more funded because it was cheaper than band. Right. So,
yeah.
I just,
it's just unfortunate that we don't think ahead. I mean,
but that's where that 7 generations things comes from, right? Yeah. We're supposed to be thinking way down the line, not just through this budget's quarterly approval.
Yeah. And, as a parent, I would not have understood all that if I weren't a creative. So for my friends and, who are creative and who could provide that for their children's school or themselves at home or their church or community, it made a difference, and it can be really positive. But a lot of people don't have. Neither of my adoptive parents were creative or artistic or musical. So, I mean, luckily I had some of that coming up, growing up, being able to join the band at 4th grade. Yeah, I played the recorder too. They're horrible sounding, but there's just not enough emphasis. There's not enough monies. There's not enough thought and consideration for the 7 generations. We think like that more because we're Indigenous people. We know we've been taught to think 7 generations ahead. And wouldn't that be nice if everyone else in mainstream society had that same kind of appreciation for thinking ahead?
I guess it just breaks my heart. I feel like I'd rather have a bunch of kids clumping through a cute band in school than a bunch of broken-hearted, broken-spirited, broken-down humans in prison.
Yeah, and most of my guys came from Oakland, from East LA,
It's like,
so
listen,
it, and they didn't have that connection with their culture for one reason or another. Um, but it has been sad. Um, and I worry for the next generations to come after us. I worry for my grandchildren. I've got 13 of them.
jeez,
Yeah,
Mary.
Gary Small. I have 13 grandchildren now, Gary Small. The
He's coming
oldest
for
is
you.
20, the youngest is 2. And I'm going to be a great grandmother. Just found out. So there you go. So, yes, there are lots of reasons to worry about the 7th generation. Yes.
And it doesn't take, I don't think, much time or effort to give ourselves that time and space to ponder these long-term things. God, this got sad real quick. Mary Buzzkill Youngblood. Thank you. So, how can people, if they want to learn more about what you do or programs, maryyoungblood.com, is that the best thing to do?
Oh, yeah. People need to know I'm slowing down as I'm becoming an elder, and I'm not performing quite as much, and not teaching in the prisons right now. Our funding did go away through the California Arts Council. Um, and it's a lot of red tape to go into this, the state facility and get all the paperwork to, background checks, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not doing as much of that. But if I'm going to have anything big coming up, like the Smithsonian, then I'll have the Whiz Kid put something on the website on
Okay.
maryyoungblood.com. And then there's places where people can go and find out how to take a flute lesson from me, So I'm still teaching. I love teaching. I do Zoom. Um, so I, do a limited amount of performances here and there, usually locally. Just getting older, and I will disclose, like a lot of Native people, I have diabetes, and my A1C is really good because of diet, exercise, and Ozempic. But I still have some issues with my eyes and my feet. But pretty content with life right now. Um, did get the invitation to come perform at a solstice festival at the Smithsonian Museum of the American Indian, and I'll be there for my birthday. So I will turn 67 and be paddling out there on the Potomac. So if anyone wants to come visit me on my birthday, I'll be at this place they call the Basin in Washington, D.C., paddling with my friend on my birthday.
Exercise on your birthday? Ugh.
Well, no, it's you paddle around. I'm a kayaker, so, and that's my tradition. That's what our people do.
Yes.
Tenape, my mother's maiden name was Tenape, which means the kayak builders.
Wow.
So it's in the blood.
Yeah, woodworking just seems to be in your blood.
Yeah, but I'm not going to lose any digits. So people say, have you ever thought about making flutes? No.
Yeah, there's no nubs missing.
Not going to lose any digits. So I'll keep them to play with.
No, you're the first smart one in your family then, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Well, Nick, my uncle, or my cousin who just passed away, he was one of the last builders of badarkas. Wow. So he's got some of his traditional Aleutic badarkas in the Homer Pratt Museum. So he made the original seal skin, and sometimes it'd be like a synthetic skin kayak, but traditionally they'd be seal skin and other things that I don't even know about. But I've been there and met him and got to see his kayaks. And so kayaking and being on the water, it's just a joy for me. I don't as much anymore because of hand issues and rotator cuff, but yes. We're going to be on some paddle boats in DC where, you can paddle by the Jefferson Memorial and the Washington Monument. And I love the museums there. So I'm going to really enjoy some working, but also getting to see some things.
So maryyoungblood.com that I have up there on the screen, that is kind of the hub for all
Yeah,
things Mary. So if you want a
yeah.
lesson, you go through there. If you want to, now we didn't even get into like music distribution changing. So
Or
I'm
any
fortunate.
questions from anyone?
Yes. Well, I'm fortunate enough to be in that transition period where I still have a ton of Mary Youngblood CDs, even
Nice.
autographed ones that you gave me. So when I need Mary Youngblood, it's easy for me. I go to my pile of CDs. So where can your new and future fans, where are you?
I'm everywhere. You can stream me. There's Spotify, there's Amazon, there's things I don't even know that, when I had a record label, they signed me up with lots of things, different streaming avenues to hear my music. I'm on all over YouTube. I've got my own Pandora station. I saw some things on YouTube. I mean, I had never seen YouTube until my grandchildren turned on my smart TV and talked into the remote and said, YouTube, Mary Youngblood. Who knew? I'm sitting there watching myself perform, going, oh, whoa, whoa, that's in Fort Walton Beach. Oh, whoa, that's Joanne Shenandoah, me and Bill Miller. So there's all these things out there that I don't even know. You named some of them that sound familiar because I know when I get royalty checks, there are royalty checks from a lot of streaming apps.
Yes. Well, I just went to the Spotify because it's quicker.
Spotify, that's right. That's
So
one.
I have Heart of the World 1998 up to 2007, a Mary Youngblood collection. So are we missing stuff on that, or
Oh, yeah, not everyone has all one, two, three, four, all six albums. Not they don't all
okay.
have from 1 to 6.
And then you have new album.
Well,
Okay,
not it's
I'm
not
not
out yet.
I know, but I feel like we've had this conversation like 3 or 4 times on the radio.
Well,
And
yeah, and I know Nick has set up the streaming avenues he wants to put us on.
okay.
So, and I'm the OG that relies on the young whippersnapper to get that. That's something that I don't do that he will be doing, all that keeping me, relevant, as they say, keeping me relevant out there in the music world. So Nick's got this.
So
I totally
when do we expect this next up and coming album? Are you going to drop some singles? Like I have stuff you gave me. So
You've
but I
heard
only
some of the new
yeah,
album.
right. And
Let me.
and some of our listeners, but I've been kind of silently, gently stalking you, and I haven't seen any new announcements. So how do I ask this without sounding like an impatient asshole? Damn it, Mary, where's the new album? We've been waiting like forever.
Well, there was a tragedy in Nick's
Oh,
family,
I'm sorry.
and my little brother lost his. I call him my little brother. Lost his 19-year-old daughter
Oh my
3 months ago. So I'm not pushing this.
you
It
know what?
was
I'm not pushing it either. I take it back.
Thank you. It's really tragic. I knew, he would play music for her when she was a little girl. He'd play my
Oh,
music for her, and so there was a special connection with her and I. And it's just really, really tragic. It was a young man who hit them, T-boned them, and his wife and he are still recovering. And the young man was 20, his daughter was 19. So this young man this has just broken him as well. It's just tragic all the way around. So I am not pushing my little brother right now.
I am with
He
you
needs to
there.
heal. But he just moved to Arizona from Sacramento. So he misses coming to the jams. I would have jams at my house, and he needs music right now in his life. So he's been working on it and taking himself away a little bit and escaping by doing editing, or
Hmm.
working on adding some more. He's a drummer, so he's been adding drum to different tracks, and I'm just letting him take his time. So
Yeah, he has to.
um, And I don't know much about streaming. I'm not going to have hard copy CDs. And for me, that's weird.
It's super weird for me too.
I would
Like,
always count things by CDs. Like if I'm out, for instance, I was in Miami and I was doing a gig there with Joanne Shenandoah, and I found a beautiful amethyst bracelet I wanted, but it was $200. So I'm like, can I afford that? It's only so many CD sales. Okay. Or if I'm going to buy something, it's like, well, this only costs one CD. So I'm going to buy it. So everything was based on how many CDs I sold and how much I made can I afford that? So it's a little bit different to have things being streamed. And a lot of people my age were not getting this streaming thing. Like I will announce today in front of God and everybody and Gary Small, this is my first podcast. This is my very first podcast.
This is an honor. It is an honor and a privilege, woman.
So that's how behind the times I am, and I don't even apologize for it. That's what I have children and grandchildren and whiz kids for.
Mary. Oh my goodness. What an honor and a privilege. Well, when you get these OGs like you don't expect to be the first of anything, right? And to have you on air in 1,000 interviews, I thought you were already doing these podcasts long before. I thought I was late to the game.
I've never even heard one before.
They've been out for like 15 years. I didn't believe on podcasts when they started because I was like, I'm on the radio. I don't need a podcast. And now I'm on the radio. Like nobody listens to the radio. They're like, what's the radio? We are two hens just trying to keep up with the times.
That's right. And I'm pretty open to going with the flow, but I'm also smart enough to know that I don't know all this kind of stuff. So I need a whiz kid. So that is my little brother Nick. He gets to be the one. And he's
Nick, we are sending just love and support and hugs and prayers and cedars. I mean, I almost want to just take a 10 seconds, just everybody stop. And I don't know Nick, but I'm going to send him everything I got right now because
his wife is part Native, and so their kids are, and they were all fancy dancers when they were young, and so we have a really special friendship, and he's younger than my oldest son, so he's like one of my kids,
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
No, I'm gonna send him love. Okay, so Mary, you survived your first podcast. I'm gonna do this. You gonna do this some more? Is this your scene now?
Sure. You want a song real quick?
Oh, I'll give you anything you want. I just feel bad because I know you and I'm comfortable with you and I love you. So just blah, 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 blah. Gabbing with you for 4 hours is easy. But I also have to pay attention and like, oh, we're just torturing people on the internet for almost 2 hours. So
well, let's give them a song.
Did you just sniff it? Oh, you're checking the site. I was like, is she sniffing her?
No,
flute?
I have to look to make sure the bird is lined up, right, Gary Small? So you got to make sure that the wall of the bird is even Steven with the wall on the inside of the flute. Okay, this is within my heart. go. I can't hear you.
That was my bad. So I put on
Oh.
mute so you wouldn't hear me. Well, thank you for being here with us today, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Mary Youngblood, auntie
Thank
to
you
all.
very much, Jen. And thank you for checking in with us, Gary Small.
I did. I texted him that you're picking on him, so I might have started a turf war.
Right on. You get to do that amongst friends.
Stirring the pot is like my favorite hobby and my favorite cardio.
All right.
So maryyoungblood.com, you got a few things picking up. That's the best way to bug you. People can bug me and I'll bug you. But you were built for this podcast game. You're way too pretty to be just on radio. So I encourage you to if the next person asks you, you nailed it, A+.
Well, thank you very much. And if you're in the DC area, come see me on June 21st. It's open to the public, the Museum of the American Indian.
And then it's
Solstice
twice.
celebration.
You're going to have two or three sets throughout that day and stuff?
I will be, depending on how my hands can handle playing solo for so long. Probably
and then
3 20-minute sets or 2 30-minute sets.
And then all of that, though, as we get closer till, will be up on Mary Youngblood or the Facebook from the Smithsonian and things like that. So you'll let us know when you know?
Yes.
Because I've already told people to go there. Everybody on the East Coast, I'm like, you have to go. I'm even going to pay for people's gas to go see you. So
Cool.
No, I'm kidding. I'm too cheap for that kind of stuff. But we got Carly Harvey, DC Queen of the Blues. I've already bullied her into gathering up some friends and going way back into distant cousins and being like, if you still love this family, you need to go see her. I'm doing my best.
Good. All right.
Well, you have an amazing day and keep us abreast of some other big things that happen. But you know what? I can say this because we're not on FM and the FCC. I fucking love you, Mary Youngblood.
Oh, I love you too, girl.
Okay.
And I'll see you at the next powwow.
You got it, lady.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to release you back into the wild. Mwah. What a day. So it started off a little wonky, but Mary got it. Oh, I'll let Mary know that JD says hug. So, all right. I think let us do maybe one more little blurb about y'all. So let's do one more association little promo, and then I will wrap this up and give you my hugs and high fives and get out of here.
Join the Everything Back movement and purchase a Cultural Sovereignty Protector shirt today. A Cultural Sovereignty Protector is an advocate who is working to create a world where diverse Native cultures and values are lived, protected, and respected. Cultural sovereignty means having control over those things that make us who we are as Native peoples. Everything Back is our movement to return those things that make us who we are so that we can heal. Purchasing one of our Native-designed limited edition shirts demonstrates your commitment to human rights and equality. Visit indian-affairs.org to check out all of the colors and styles in stock today.
Everything Back. Well, look at that. You can get a red hoop shirt and an Everything Back Association t-shirt. There you go. You just bought yourself 2 days of not doing laundry. Well, thank you to all of our online commenters. Thank you for Mary. Thank you for everybody who's been patient. So this will be available in podcast forum, cleaned up a little bit. MaryYoungblood.com, Mary Youngblood across all the streaming services. I just want a fun little day. All right. Well, Chihilale, I love y'all so very hard. And until next time when we jump back in the hoop, I'm Jennifer Robin, pressing button.